Howdy, howdy. Dylan with Huntsville Guns. Today we're going to cover another subject on the most common task that I do as a gunsmith. This is not all inclusive, but this is kind of a brief overview of one of those top performers in the shop, things that I do almost daily. Today we're looking at sight work. I have this on my website under my pricing list in a couple of different fashions, but primarily what we're talking about is removing and replacing factory sights of some variety. So on a striker fired handgun, on a revolver, on a shotgun, on a rifle with iron sights. This is kind of in that category. Several times a week I get a phone call from a customer who purchases a new or new to them firearm, and they want to replace the sights to make them more functional for their uses. So a good example would be somebody purchases a used Glock handgun, it has the factory Glock iron sights on it, and they'd like to install night sights or fiber optic high vis sights or whatever the case may be. I do tons of these a year. For example, a striker fire handgun, if you brought me a Glock and you wanted me to install night sights, I can provide the sights for whatever the cost of the parts are, and then I charge a $45 fee to remove and replace sights. The biggest part of this job is having the right tool and the knowledge on how to use it. I will say that the vast majority of handguns, the sights can be removed and installed with a couple of very simple tools, i.e. a brass punch and a hammer. But on a professional level, when you're doing that at scale, it's much more controllable and much more, it can be accomplished much quicker with the use of a purpose-built sight pusher. So this is one of the tools that I use. This one is made by a company called Vism, V-I-S-M, probably a $50 tool. You can buy it in a kit with a bunch of accessories, or you can buy it standalone, I believe. I've had this one for several years, and like I said, this at $50, you install 2 sets of night sights for customers. At $45 a piece, you've paid for the tool and have enough money for some tacos for lunch. So this tool is pretty simple. It's used, you place the slide into the into this pusher, you tighten down a couple of screws, thumb screws, to hold the slide in place, and then you use this lever to remove or install the sights in the slide. It's a lot more controlled, so the slide is held rigid, and you can adjust the height for how high up the sights you want to push, more torque, less torque, things of that nature. Very, very common task, and a tool, even most hobbyists should own one of these if you plan on replacing sights. Super cheap investment for what you get out of it. Then we'll get into shotguns. This is not, like I said, a comprehensive video, just kind of a quick look. Most shotguns have a bead sight on them, and so you would use a tool like this. This is a collet style tool. So you loosen the collet, slide it over the bead sight, and then tighten down on the collet, and it grabs it in a round fashion instead of using like a flat set of pliers where you're biting a round object in a square manner. This holds it in a round way, and then you can twist them out of the firearm. Most of them are threaded, some of them are soldered in place, but I have those in a few different sizes. They get used once or twice a week. Pretty common tool. Again, this is a tool by Vism. This is a Glock specific front sight removal tool, $5–10. Multitude of manufacturers, multitude of different qualities, but all pretty useful for installing Glock style sights or striker fired guns. So this is Smith & Wesson sights. These are all sights that I grabbed out of the top of the bin. Normally when I replace sights, if the customer doesn't want to keep them, I throw them in a bag, label what they go to, and throw them in one of my parts bins to be reused on a broken one, or to replace a lost one, or to sell to a customer for replacement. Say they order a bear slide and they just need a set of sights to get the gun functional. This is a great option. So these are just the ones that I have pulled from probably the last week or two for different sights that have been installed. So this is a dovetail rear sight for a Marlin rifle, a bunch of handguns, of shotgun beads that are still, they're undersized and they're still usable for, say, a mid bead, but not good for a front bead. Additionally, you have fiber optic material. It's good to keep some of this on hand for doing replacements on fiber optic sights that are damaged, or drilling a front sight on, say, a revolver and installing fiber optic material. Again, pretty short video, very basic, but one of those very common tasks that I see on a day-to-day basis nearly. Things that I do as a professional gunsmith. They're very profitable if you make the investment in tooling up front. You can do these in quantity in a very safe manner that would prevent damage to firearms and ultimately offer a great service to a customer. So the majority of my audience appears to be people who are interested in gunsmithing as a profession, or hobby level gunsmithing, or working on your own firearms. This is one of those things that is the bread and butter of a gun shop. Sight work and installing, removing, replacing, things of that nature. Hope you find it useful. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great evening.